to start now because we scheduled
This meeting is being recorded.
to start by 12 o'clock. So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone coming from around the world and joining us on this event. My name is Eziabo Osele, and I'm the chairperson of the Energy Institute Young Professional Network in Nigeria. And I would love to welcome everyone for coming to our event today. And with us, we have Jeanette, who is the director of the Women in Global Wind Energy Council Africa. Apologies for the mistake. So sorry, I meant to share my screen. Share my screen now. So just to ensure everyone can see my screen. Yeah. So now, moving on to before I dive deep into why we are all here, I would love to give a brief introduction of who we are, the Energy Institute. So, I love to describe Energy Institute is a chartered professional membership body that brings together global energy expertise, and we do this because with the ambition to ensure that energy and its critical role is better understood, managed, and valued with the main reason of accelerating global energy transition. So we have over 20,000 individual members under our wing, and we are represented in 120 countries globally. So coming down to what the Young Professional Network is all about, the Energy Institute caters for young professionals, our members within the age of 18 to 35 years under the Young Professional Energy Network. And I always like to describe us as a hub for tomorrow's energy leaders because we have this mission of ensuring that we draw together cross disciplines energy professionals from diverse backgrounds to learn about key key stuff in the energy industry and also to build themselves as they network with both their peers and senior members as we all learn, grow, and we build our career in the energy field. So up to this date, we have had series of events, but from the slide, we have upcoming events which are stated on the slides, like the Women for Women Connect, the IVTOR, and etc. Various other events coming up. And we also have like Meet the Team, the people behind all the activities we have been doing since the years have gone by and till now. So these are our past events where we hosted the time out with the CEO at the Nigerian International Energy Summit at Abuja in conjunction with the Youth Idea Lab, which we had for young entrepreneurs, energy entrepreneurs in the Nigerian space to not only showcase their product, but also to showcase their ideas on what they've been doing in the Nigerian energy space based on the energy transition, renewables, and so many more attached to it. So we have also hosted like the Women for Women Connect and other events previous years ago. So bringing us back to why we are all here, which is for the Young African Energy Leaders program. So can everyone hear me to ensure that I'm flowing with everyone?
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. So us back to why we are all here. This program was designed with my team to ensure that we showcase, engage, and support exceptional talents who are proven exemplary leadership and accomplishment in the energy industry. Like bringing me back to why I describe who the Energy Institute Young Professional Network, because I said we are a hub for tomorrow's energy leaders to ensure that the future of energy lies within the youth hands and how we try to like push forward to ensure that we meet our targets based on our geography and we ensure that the energy transition is what we're promoting everything that we do. So not to dive or go forward and use a lot of our time because we are on a scheduled time. So I would love to introduce our moderator, Ayobami, to take the mic from here. Ayobami, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Osele. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ayobami Adidini, and I'm the founder of Energy Intelligence. In the last 5 years now, my company has been telling stories of young leaders, innovators in the African energy space on Africa's journey to a sustainable energy future. I also freelance for Guardian UK and Adweek. So it's really an honor for me to, like I said earlier, to spend some time this afternoon to hear from what Jeanette has to share with us concerning her journey. Thank you so much, Osele.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ayobami. And now I believe I can call on Jeanette to give a brief introduction about herself. Then we can go deep while we are all here. Thank you, Jeanette. Mike, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Just to confirm, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Clearly.
Thank you so much, everyone. First and foremost, to the Energy Institute Nigeria Young Professionals Network for inviting me here today. I really appreciate having an opportunity to speak to each and every one of you, and I hope to make this session as interactive as possible. A quick summary about me. My names are Jeanette Mwendwa Gitobu. I am the current director of the Women in Wind Global Leadership Program and policy advisor at the Global Wind Energy Council. The Global Wind Energy Council itself as an entity is a nonprofit trades organization that acts as the authoritative voice of the global wind sector across the world, with over 80 countries under our portfolio, including 1,500 member companies across the entire value chain of the wind sector. That means we have companies that produce electricity, we have the distributors, we have the turbine manufacturers, we have every single company that is under the entire value chain of wind under our network, including to also having national associations in the world that we partner up with to be able to drive wind as a solution to the climate crisis. That's my professional life, but I think I can pause there and hand over the floor back to our moderator for the next session.
Hello, Ayobami, over to you to take it up from here. Ayobami, can you hear us? Yes, there's difficulties with his network. Yeah. Ayobami, over to you. Take it up.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. Once again, can everybody hear me? Okay, great. So once again, thank you so much for being a part of this, everyone. This interview session is going to take about 20 minutes. And within those 20 minutes, Jeanette is going to be sharing with us my weight of experience. First, as an energy professional, and also as a young female energy professional, right? Thing I like to know from you is that what would you describe as a career-defining moment for you?
That is a great question. I think for me, I can say my career-defining moment was when I had a crisis of identity to ask myself who exactly I am as Jeanette, what are my values, and where do I see myself 50 years from now, and what kind of a legacy do I want to leave 100 years from now? So I to give a quick background about me, I'm a Kenyan. I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya at the moment, although the Global Wind Energy Council is based out of our office in Brussels. I left Kenya when I was 5 years old of my parents' role as missionaries with the Methodist Church of the United States. So we moved to Zambia for 3 years, and then from there moved to Cambodia in Southeast Asia for over 17 years, where we lived there, I studied there, I grew up there, and then I graduated high school there before going to the US to study my undergraduate degree, getting a Bachelor's of Arts in Economics from St. Lawrence University. So after all that travels, my parents asked me a very interesting question that I'll never forget. They asked me, "What we have controlled your life for the better part of 21 years at the time. What would you like to do with your life now?" And for me, it was very important for me to explore my Kenyan identity, mainly because leaving Kenya at 5, when I was out there, my passport was Kenyan, my IDs were Kenyan. I can speak Swahili. I can also speak our local mother tongue called Kimeru, but I never had the experience of actually living here at home. And that was an experience that I sincerely wanted to have. And then from there now, that's how I got back home. When I was here, my father once again encouraged me and he told me, why not get an internship while you're here just to keep yourself busy as we plan your next steps for yourself. And I was very fortunate enough through my networks and apologies, I've been sick with a cough. I sent out my CV to a company in Kenya called the Kenya Pipeline Company, which is a government organization that has the mandate to transport all such as, for example, Tanzania, Uganda. I'm hearing some feedback. Tanzania, Uganda, and all other export markets within the Kenyan borders. Once that was a 1-year internship, and then from there I moved over to Shell, where I worked for Shell for 2 years in the supply and trading department, where I was able now to understand the entire supply chain in the Kenyan country. How do you import vessels? How do you calculate supply and demand of oil products in the country itself?
Sorry to break it down, Jeanette. Can I please ask every other person to mute their audio so Jeanette could have a seamless experience? Thank you so much. Jeanette, please go ahead.
Thank you. So I was mentioning I'd worked for Shell for 2 years, where I was at the supply and trading department, understanding how to understand supply and demand in Kenya, how to plan for the entire stock for the country itself, and how all the different entities from the national government to oil companies to even us as consumers, how that entire supply chain works. But that's when I said I can have a crisis of faith, because I was looking for an opportunity that also align in terms of creating impact. And I was very fortunate to get, for example, an opportunity to now go and work in the renewable energy sector where I am. And I can definitely say getting that opportunity to come and work with Lab Developments Kenya was my career defining moment, because it changed the trajectory of my career.
Thank you so much. Jeanette, might I add that not very many people have such opportunities like you. I mean, you moving from one place to the other. I believe it has really, number one, helped your career and also your outlook about life. So thank you so much for that once again. So now, back to your role at the Wind Energy Council. How do you describe your role? What's your day-to-day life?
So my role is it's split into two. There is, of course, the program management side of my work, and then there's the policy side of my work as well. So on the program side of my work, I work a lot with fundraising. I do a lot of fundraising. I do a lot of report writing. I check in with my participants for this year's cohort of the Women in Wind Global Leadership Program. I plan webinars. So there's a lot of planning that goes into running the program itself, and it has to be done in advance. So I'm usually on calls with stakeholders to be able to ensure that we are planning this program on time. For example, we're planning a physical study tour to Germany in September. So I'm working a lot with Wind Hamburg, which is a big wind onshore and offshore wind conference that is being hosted in Germany in September. So I'm planning the curriculum around that. I also spend a lot of time checking in my team because my program, I work with people across the global south. So I work with people in Latin America, I work with people in Africa, I work with people in Asia, Oceania, even Europe. So I really have to manage my time around making sure that I am working with all the key relevant stakeholders across the world. And then of course, now there's actually the day-to-day admin tasks of replying to emails. And then of course, now doing also hard work, just sitting down and actually completing actual tasks like some slides, approving my team's work, supporting my team where they need. So I think that's the day-to-day aspect of my program side of things. On the policy side of things, especially when it comes to the African continent itself, working a lot with government and stakeholders at that level to be able to understand how can we be able to support each government within their unique settings to ensure that wind can be a solution to their national grids. The benefits of wind, I can say on my end, would be, first and foremost, it's one of the most affordable sources of renewable energy out there. Of course, there is solar. Of course, there is hydrogen. Green hydrogen is a new one that is becoming the new kid on the block in terms of energy. Sorry. Of course, there's also geothermal. These are all renewable energy sources that are readily available in some of these countries. Of course, we also have to take into account that not all countries have equal access to all these resources. And there are those countries, for example, that are also very oil and gas rich. And it's also important to honor that and to also recognize the importance of having that kind of form of energy within their resource mix. But for us as the Global Wind Energy Council, our main goal is to really advocate for wind as a solution to A, the climate crisis, but B, to the rising costs of energy, and 3, to ensure that everyone around the world has equal access to electricity no matter where they're based. And wind can really be able to provide a solution through that to the national grid specifically. So that's what I mainly do now on the policy side of things on a day-to-day basis.
Well, thank you so much, Jeanette. Very interesting. So now, because this platform, right, is mainly for young professionals in the energy space. Looking at me, for example, right, it's hard for me to set career goals. Maybe that's why I'm here to be big, right? So I can imagine how tedious your job, really is. So can you give us a breakdown? How do you set your career goals? Do you see like, okay, in the next 6 months, this is where I want to be, and this is what I want to do to get there? Just enlighten us, please.
That is a great question, and I hope to do it justice because that is something I had to figure out for myself when I was trying to decide where do I see myself in 50 years and what kind of a legacy do I want. So for me, I like to plan. I'm a very visual person, so allow me to use an illustration that I use for myself. There is the moon, and that is the goal. And I love space. I love looking at the stars. And if I was to ask myself, how do I get to the moon? I would be like, okay, I need a rocket ship. I'll need fuel. I would need to leave the atmosphere. So if the moon is the goal of where it is that I want to be, how do I get there? And then I work backwards. The reason why I'm using that illustration is because that's how I plan my own career goals and how I plan my future. And for me, it's very important. I call it the trinity of a human person. There is mind, there is body, and then there's spirit. Where do I want my mind to be in 50 years? That's the first question that I write under the box of mind. Where do I want my spirit to be in the next 50 years? That's the leading question I ask under the box of spirit. And then where do I want my body to be in like 50 years? And that's going to be like health-wise, because we need to take care of those three aspects of the human experience, in my opinion, to really show up as our most authentic self, but also B, to show up as our most challenged, but also tried, tested, and available self at the same time. So those are the 3 areas of my life that I like to plan myself around. Of course, my careers now go under mind specifically. And when I look at myself in the future, like I asked myself, the second question I ask myself is, who is my best self? Who is the best Jeanette? How can I show up as her? And so once I answer that question, to give an example, for me, it's going to be, I would like to be at the highest levels of government. I don't want to be president. I'm not a huge fan of politics, but I do want to work. You always have to have the government. That is a key stakeholder no matter where you are. So I'd like to, for example, be an executive director of the World Bank, mainly because I believe that it's important to A, have representation, but B, to also have voices of people who have experienced on the ground the challenges that are happening on the African continent, and being an advocate and a voice of championing African agendas and African ideas and African solutions at the same time. So if World Bank is what it is that I want to be in my career as an executive director, I work backwards from that goal, and I'm like, okay, I need a master's, for example. So I'm applying for my master's this year. I will need to, for example, get professional certificates. So another one could be like, I'm a PMP certified individual. So that's another example. They also say you need to have a history of leadership. So I Google and I look at different awards that people have gotten in the industry that I admire. And then from there, I see what it took for them to actually get those awards, and then prepare myself to one day receive those awards that I want to get. And then from there now, I also look, for example, I'm also a huge believer of manifestation, and manifestation begins when you can clearly see what it is that you want. So I also write down, for example, how much money I want to have one day. So I write down a specific number, and I'm like, this is what I want to be able to have one day. So that's for example, how I plan myself. I'm very clear. I like to be very clear of what my goals are, so that I know exactly what I'm working about. And then I divide those goals now into 10-year goals, 5-year goals, and then 1-year goals. So I know where I'm going in 10 years. I know where I want to be in 5 years, so that I can get to where it is I want to be in 10 years. But what do I need to do now, within the 1 year now, to be able now to get to my 5-year, my 10-year goals? So that is how I split up my goals specifically. Spiritual wise, for example, I said I grew up a missionary child, so God is a huge part of who I am as a person. So being in alignment with that, so finding time to meditate, to read my Bible, to pray, just so that my spirit is also at peace. And then, of course, now the health wise, when it comes to the body aspect of things, okay, how can I be able, because I'm 27 right now, how can I be able to have the healthiest me that I can be? Because without a healthy body, I can't do any of these goals that I want to do. So how can I create a good eating routine? How can I create a good social life? How can I still live the life I want to live, my life as a young person, but still do it responsibly, so that I'm taking care of myself as an individual? So those are the 3 boxes that I use when it comes to planning myself, and they all tie into who it is that I want to be in the future.
Okay, so listening to you, one will be tempted to think that you've had a very smooth sail, right, through life, but I believe that is not the case, right? So, what would you describe as some of the challenges you faced? First, as a woman in the energy industry, then also as a young person in the industry, then thirdly, as an African.
Tough questions. I love it. Tough questions, but I love it. So I can start off with as a young person. As I mentioned before, I'm 27. And the thing about being young is that it's both a good thing, but it can also be used against you. It's a good thing because that is, and this is advice that I give all young people. Your youth is for you to make mistakes and to learn from those mistakes, and people will be more forgiving of you when you're young. Compared to, let's say, when you're 40 and making some of these mistakes. So use that advantage to yourself. Put yourself out there, do your best, fail as many times as you can when you're young, because at that time, the risks associated with failure can be quite low compared to failing at 60 and you have responsibilities and you have heavy things that are tied to who you are as a person. That just, you need to minimize failure by that time. So my advice to young people is fail as many times as you can. And I have done that specifically. I've learned lessons. I have pitched projects that were not viable and learning from that. For example, in the wind sector, I've had to learn how to work with authorities that may not necessarily like me. So how can you be able to partner up even with those people who are giving you a lot of opposition? That's an important skill to be able to learn as a young person. So I firmly believe as a young person, one of the challenges that I have received is that I have to consistently prove myself. I have to consistently show up in a room and show up as my best self, because I'm very firmly aware that when it comes to luck, and for me, I define luck as opportunity meeting preparation. You open up doors. You open up doors not just for yourself, but you open up doors for many other young people. And if I fail as a young person at an opportunity that I have been given, it means now that just looking at the list of participants here, for example, I'm seeing someone called Hope. It means that if someone like Hope, for example, who is on this call, wants to pursue a similar opportunity to what I have done, that door may be closed to that person because I did not honor that opportunity. So I tell young people, if you have asked for an opportunity, always make sure that you do your best in that opportunity so that you can allow other people to grow using you as a ladder to move in their own careers. As an African, it goes back now to the mentality of, how do I best put this? We have to always show African excellence. That is what I have come to learn as an African. Because when it comes to, we have many challenges on the continent, let me not lie. We have challenges, for example, of food, we have challenges of electricity, we have challenges of water, we have challenges of politics, we have many challenges of resource allocation. We have many challenges on the African continent, but the one thing that we have to our benefit is that A, we are a very young continent, and B, we are very, very tenacious and ambitious, and we don't give up. That is our superpower as Africans specifically. We do what needs to be done to take care of our people. We have huge communities that we're a part of that take care of ourselves, and that power of community, I think, is a superpower of us as Africans on the continent. And number three, we also have ingenuity. We are very creative. We come up with businesses that are able to solve problems. I mean, for example, here in Kenya, there's a business called M-Pesa, where you no longer have to have a bank account to transact. People can send money directly to your phone and you're able to make payments using your phone. That is an African invention that I can definitely say that I'm proud as a Kenyan to be able to witness how successful it is as an example. And there are many other things I know Africans are doing on this continent that I just can't name everything, but we have huge human ingenuity. We are creative, we see problems, and we find solutions to solve those problems. And as Africans, that's our best that we can bring to the world, because the world is watching Africa. We are the next frontier of growth. Africa is the next frontier of us pushing agendas forward. So we need to bring our best foot forward across the entire continent to ensure that when they call on Africa, and they are calling on Africa, for example, whereas, to give one example, the recent Ukrainian crisis has created a huge energy crisis around the energy sector right now. So they're looking to Africa now to step in and help support Europe to meet some of their energy needs. We need to show up experiences in African is that I always have to showcase the best of Africa so that I can show a different side from what the media may always portray about Africa. And that goes to one of my favorite quotes that I like in the world. It's called, "Until the lion can learn how to speak for itself, the tail will always glorify the hunter." And we as Africans start stories on these platforms so that now the tail can glorify, so that now us as lions can be able now to speak for ourselves and share our stories as we are as Africans, instead of allowing other narratives to define us as well. And as a woman specifically as well, especially in the wind sector, we are very few in the wind sector. I can definitely say that from my own experience. So it's twofold. One, I have felt a lot of support as a woman in the wind sector, because we like to nurture talent in the wind sector a lot. And that's part of the program that I'm currently running, the Women in Wind Global Leadership Program. It is designed to provide mentorship to women in the wind sector to ensure that they're able to have that level of support. B, knowledge transfer webinars to ensure that we're equipping women with the knowledge required to be successful thought leaders in the sector, not because they're women, but because they are excellent at the work that they do. 3, we also provide networking opportunities at the highest level of governments, for example, IRENA, the IEA, the UN, Sustainable Energy for All, huge institutions across the world at the highest levels of policy and government making. We provide opportunities for networking for them at those levels. And 3, we also elevate their profiles on a global stage because the Global Wind Energy Council works at the highest level of the wind sector. So we have the opportunity to really elevate the profiles of women at the wind sector, which I can say personally, I benefited from. Before I became director of the program, I was actually a participant in last year's program. So that was how I was able to get my foot in the door to where I am right now as a director. But I have felt a lot of support, but there's also challenges that come with that. A lot of it comes with unbiased consciences that people have about women. For example, if a woman decides to start a family, usually that is directly correlated with a decline in her career. So how do we challenge those kind of perceptions and show that even if I am becoming a mother, that is not going to stop me from also excelling in my career while also being a supportive wife, a supportive mother at the same time. So challenging those kind of perceptions that come that way. Another perception that people have to be challenged also is, for example, women who pursue engineering and being told like, oh my gosh, why is a woman interested in working in a wind turbine manufacturing company? Mainly because those are spaces that women most of the time are not participating in. There's a perception that it's a man's job to be manufacturing wind turbines and putting them up and doing all the construction work. So challenging those perceptions that no, women can also be able to participate in those kind of fields and pursue those kind of opportunities at the same time. So those are some examples of some of the challenges that I've experienced as a woman within the sector itself.
It's glad to know that you also have some scars, despite the fact that you're moving very fast. So one of the challenges young people have in Africa in particular is the fact that there's this lack of mentorship. When I say that when you ask older generations how to get to where they are, they usually tell you that it's by grace, right? We understand it's by grace, but then I took notice of the fact that earlier in your conversation, you mentioned that through your network, you applied to the Kenya pipeline company, right? Yes. So I want to know what roles have your mentors played in your life? And who are those mentors?
So that is a great question. And I'm a huge believer that mentors play a huge role in people's lives. And you should always have 3 kind of mentors. You should have a mentor that is older than you, way older than you, like very experienced and seasoned in the sector or in the area of interest that you're in. You should have a mentor that is close to you, maybe like 2 years older, 3 years older, who has walked the steps before you, but they can be able to advise you on that. And then you also need to have a mentor that is completely outside of your network. So for example, for me, I have mentors that are beyond the wind sector because it's important to have a well-rounded perspective when it comes to your mentors. And the other thing about mentorship is that you can join either formal mentorship programs. That is an option that people can decide to consider. So you can Google, for example, mentorship programs that are in line with your interests, professional interests, personal interests, and see what comes up. And then from there now you can apply for those kind of programs to seek a mentor. For women, for example, there's a mentorship program where I'm a mentor right now called March 8th. I think they're going to recruit for the next cohort very soon. So there are those kind of mentorship programs that can be able to help you on that. But then at the same time, a mentor could be anyone that you admire. A mentor could be anyone that you'd like to learn from. And when it comes to those kind of situations where you have identified someone that you're like, okay, I would like to learn more about this person. The thing is, you have to approach it very strategically, because a mentorship is not just you come up to someone and you say, hey, can you be my mentor? It's a relationship that has been built between you and someone, especially for those mentor-mentee relationships to last for a long time. So I'll be like, let's have a, so for me, the tactic that I like to use is that if I see someone that I really admire and I'd like to learn more about them, I'll send them, for example, a LinkedIn message, and I'll be like, hello, how are you? I really admire your profile. I would like to learn a bit more from you for about A, B, C. So be very specific on what you'd like to learn from them, just so that they can be able to know what exactly you're looking for. And then from there, you can, if they're on the other side of the world, you can just ask them for a virtual call. If they're within your country or within your network, the next thing you can do now is to ask them for coffee and just be like, hi, I would like to have some coffee. Can I please have 1 hour of your time? These are my availabilities. Does it work for you? If they say no, they say no. And it's not the end of the world if someone says no to you. But you just end up now finding someone else who is willing to say yes. And then from there now, that's how you build those mentor relationships, in my opinion. So for me, my mentors, for example, I have a mentor who works in McKinsey. McKinsey and Company is one of the largest consultancy companies in the world. In fact, how I got that mentor was because there's an award that I won within the McKinsey network called the McKinsey's Women Achievement Award. And it came with a mentor, it came with 3 months mentorship at the same time. So that's how I was able to get that mentor. And because she and I were able to build a strong relationship while I was doing that program, to this date, if I ask for a letter of recommendation, or if I ask for someone to speak on my character, or if I ask for someone who, if they ask for someone who can have a good say on who I am as a person because they've gotten a chance to know me, she is someone that I can lean upon. My other mentor, for example, are some of my parents' friends who have really excelled in their careers. So I have like one who's a very old lawyer, who I think is one of the greatest public speakers that I have ever heard. And I like to learn how to be a great public speaker. So I went to him and I was like, tell me what you did in your career and in your life to be able to learn how to be as articulate as you are, how to communicate ideas in a way that people can completely understand you without a shadow of a doubt. How when you enter into a room and you step on the podium, you have a presence and the whole room becomes quiet and you're able to command that level of respect and that level of attention simply by your aura and your presence. Those are the questions that I was asking him because I really wanted to know how can I be able to emulate similar kind of situations when I am in my public speaking stages. And then another mentor I have, of course, is within the wind industry itself. And the reason why I find her to be very important is because A, she's older than me. So she has 16 years of work experience more than I have in the industry. And it means the beauty of having that is that it means that whenever I go to her and I tell her, hi, I'm experiencing this in the sector, I don't A, she has experience, and B, as a woman, she knows what it feels like to be in those kind of situations. And 3, she can be able to advise me based upon her own career trajectory and her own experience, what would be some possible solutions for me to explore to solve whatever problem I was sharing with her at the time. So for me, I can say those are my mentors. There are many others who I can say they're not mentors, but they're people I go to for advice, especially. And I also find it very important that even as you're looking for mentors, you also be a mentor. And it's important for you to also go back and give back to younger people who are coming up in their careers, who you've identified, work coach, give your time to open up doors of opportunities as well for that person through your own networks to ensure that you're moving the cycle forward. Because it's very important. I would not be where I am without many of my mentors. And for that, I really thank them.
Wow. Thank you so much, Jeanette, for being very honest about your career trajectory. So a few points, but before then, I'd like to know if any among the audience has a question or two for you. I could just take it within the next 2 minutes. If anybody has questions, you could just drop it in the chat, or we could just unmute and then ask the questions. So while we wait for the questions, so from your conversation, I found out that I jotted down some things. So one of the things I jotted down was the fact that as a young person, right, you need to maximize failure at a very young age. Then another thing is that you always make sure you do your best as a young person. So the impact of mentors. To me, those are some of the things I jotted down, and it's really been a pleasant experience speaking with you, Jeanette. So if anyone asks question, please kindly ask right away while I hand over to Ezeago Osele once again. Thank you so much.
And please feel free to ask me any questions. I'm an open book. I try to be as honest as I can, and I'll try and answer it to the best of my abilities.
Yeah, I guess I have one question for you. So, being the director of women not just women, just being a leader in the wind space, how do you cope, like managing teams and ensuring that your teams, like you work very well with your team without any issue, like that things go really fine without any, carry everyone along. So I'm just trying to learn about that.
Uh, to confirm, I heard the question clearly. How do I cope with managing teams and carrying people forward?
Yeah, along. Yeah, your teams along.
Oh, that's a great question. So as a leader, I will say this, and I'm saying this with a lot of respect. Your team is going to be in problems, mainly because you're working with people and you need to have supportive people, and you need to have motivated people. And one thing I've learned as a leader is to remove ego out of the equation completely. That's one thing that I've learned how to do as a leader. Two, every time I have a new team member or I'm working my team, I always ask them one very critical question: how do you best feel supported? Because my role for me is not to be here to micromanage you. It's not for me to tell you this is what you need to do. I know better. It's my way or the highway. That's not the kind of a leader that I want to be. I want to be the kind of a leader who, understands how you best feel supported so that no matter what I am doing, I am working with you in a way that you best feel supported. And three, always making sure that I can also give my team clarity on where their roles fit in into the larger picture. The reason why that is important is because where I'm sitting, I have many pieces. I have many moving pieces that I'm overseeing at the same time. I have because of how close I am to the vision, and oftentimes I'm the one who is shaping the vision itself because I write a lot of strategy documents. And I also work closely, for example, with the executive management team at GWEC. I make it very clear to my team that this is how your sphere of influence where you are working is fitting into the bigger image, into the bigger picture, and encouraging them to always make sure that they have the bigger picture in mind as they're working towards it. That's important. I found that to be very important because it helps people understand how they fit in, and how they add value to the organization itself. And three, the other question I also ask is how do you best feel challenged? So that we can also give you opportunities for you to grow in your own career, and give you opportunities to shine at the same time within your chosen. For example, how do you receive feedback? Because it's not always going to be smooth sailing when you're working with your team. So I like to ask them, how do you best receive feedback so that whenever we have challenges that have come up in the day-to-day work, I can be able to work with you in a way that you best receive feedback and help you to support you from that. So those are the ways that I can say I've managed my team, and I'm grateful to my team because I can say that no leader is successful without having a successful team. So you need to be able to work very well with people, and just also learning from my own past experiences of having very tough bosses that I was having difficulty working with. Just taking that opportunity and realizing what kind of a leader I do not want to be, and what kind of a leader do I want to be at the same time. And I like creating healthy environments for my team because I believe that only unless the environment is healthy, only then can people thrive in those environments. And it goes back to me removing my ego from the equation and always coming from a perspective of how can I be able to best support my team for us together collectively to be successful. And my final point when it comes to managing teams, I have a zero blame policy. So if you have a challenge that has come up, I won't blame you. I'll ask, okay, come. Thank you for sharing that issue with me. Let's sit down and brainstorm some solutions for that challenge specifically. I don't like blaming people for challenges. It puts people in a position where they're scared to tell you what is happening and you need to know this information. So I have a zero blame policy on my end where I don't blame people. I like addressing the issue and finding and sitting down together to see how we can be able to solve that issue together without bringing the person's personal who they as a person into the equation. I feel that's very wrong. So those are the things that I have learned on how to manage my teams. But I think before that, I'd seen a question from, is it Aisen? I think you had raised your hand up and then you put it down.
All right. I wanted to know specific generalized failures. So maybe just tell us one or two that you've encountered and how you're working it. Thank you. Did you
Sorry,
get my question?
I didn't hear your question. It was breaking up.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So I was saying that you generalize the failures you had, right? I want to know specifically some of the failures you had, during your career, and also how you were able to overcome those failures. Maybe one or two of them.
Thank you so much for that question. Just to repeat the question was, can you please share maybe one or two of the failures that I have experienced in my career and how I was able to overcome them? So thank you for the question. It's a good question, a tough one, because I don't like speaking about failure all the time, but failure is important as well. So my first failure, I think, was earlier in my career. I'll be very honest and say that I had a very challenging boss that I did not get along with. Of course, at that time, I had yet to learn the tools on how to manage people who you're having a conflict with properly. And your boss is the one person you really do not want to have a conflict with because they really define your trajectory, they define your future. And at the end of the day, you have to work with them because they're the ones who are charged with the right and the responsibility to oversee you. So what I learned from that experience is that I need to always respect your boss, no matter how difficult the situation is. That's something I can definitely say I learned after that experience itself. And how you respect your boss is that there's a book called The 48 Laws of Power. I highly recommend anyone on this call to read that book specifically because I made a mistake one day of during one of the meetings challenging my boss publicly, and that was not taken quite well. In hindsight, I should have had that conversation privately instead of having that conversation in a public meeting. So one of the key lessons I learned is never do in public what you can achieve in private. And that's something that I use even into my own teams right now. Whenever we have challenges, I will never address those challenges publicly. I will call you aside privately and we have a chat just one-on-one because it's very important, especially when you're in a position of leadership, to always save the other person's face as much as you possibly can. That's one thing that I've learned. It shows respect not only to them as an individual, but it also allows them to handle the situation in a better environment compared to having to handle it in front of their colleagues and their peers and everyone. So that's one of the failures that I can say I learned in my career. The other one was, What's another one that I can say that I really failed? So another one I can say was earlier also in my career at a different organization. I was tasked with the goal of doing research in Kenya and trying to identify potential wind farms and potential wind sites as projects. At that time, I was very poor at A, asking for support where I needed support, and B, always going through things full steam ahead without stopping to consult the right stakeholders and the right parties. That backfired on me because when I finally presented the results of what I had identified as potential wind sites, the feedback I received was that A, I had wasted company resources in sites that A had already been done before. So I was told I should have come to the team first and ask them, what sites have you already identified before, so that I can be able to go beyond. I can find sites beyond what has already been done. And then two, at the same time, I ended up missing many deadlines because I just did not understand what was going on. I didn't have the courage to come up and tell my bosses and my team at that time, hi, I'm struggling on this. Can you please help me? And that is why I'm not able to meet my deadlines. So being very honest with yourself and just when you're struggling, admit when you're struggling very early on was another key lesson that I had to learn. Because A, it helps to manage people's expectations, and B, it shows that you are responsible enough that you're able to recognize where you have a shortcoming and you are asking for that help specifically, instead of when your boss is waiting for an assignment and then you can't meet the deadline because you don't know what you're doing. That's not a very good light for you to come forth with. So those are the two examples I think I can give in my career that I can say I failed, but then I also did my best to learn from them. And the other thing I've learned about failure, especially personal failure, give yourself the grace to also fail and forgive yourself for it. If you consistently harass yourself, if you consistently talk yourself down and you make yourself feel bad for it, it's okay to feel it. It shows you're human. Completely, I'm a huge advocate of feeling your emotions in that moment and letting them go. But don't let that become an excuse for you not to move forward. Because fear and failure can keep you in one place for a very long time. And the worst thing, in my opinion, that can happen is for you to become mad at the world when you're actually mad at yourself. And then instead of having the courage just to forgive yourself for what happened and then do your best to make up for it and move on from there. So thank you for that question.
Ezeagba, are you there?
Yes, I am. So, if there's no longer any question, I guess we're running out of time. So, I'd like all of us to make our video, put our video on so we can take a quick photograph from it. And thank you, Jeanette, for your time and for coming here to speak to us and for showing so much in energy sector as a woman and also as a person. Thank you so much for doing so much more, and we expect to see you more often and also maybe in events you never can tell. But let's put on our screen so we can just take a quick photograph, then we can call it a day. So, get yeah, thank you very much. And thank you once again for everyone that showed up for our event today. I'm excited to have you all here to participate during our event. And we hope to see you during our upcoming events, and just keep notes and just keep following us through our LinkedIn page, our Instagram page, and all our social media pages to just get aware of what we are doing, and so we can always push you along, and we expect to have you soon as our member. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you again, Ayobami, for coming and for moderating. Thank you, Jeanette, for coming, and thank you everyone for attending our event. God bless you.
Bye.
Bye.